Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This time we are in a level 14 Rookery dungeon and we'll be looking at it from the point of view of my Preservation Evoker. We are a random group, so we are not pre-made, we're not in comms, and we're just pugging this key together. We'll be talking a bit about the general healing requirements of this key and also about specific strategies of how Preservation Evoker can deal with those requirements. Now the first decision that you have to make is where to commit your first Bloodlust, and this decision usually comes down to using it on the first pull or on one of the pulls after that. As before we get into that further, we can see here that we have a bit of a bug going on where one of the mobs is on evade and he targets me 3 times in a row with the lightning bolt. And I get caught off guard by that and die, because first of all I expect someone to interrupt. Not sure, it wasn't possible maybe because of the evasion. But then also I don't expect to get targeted 3 times in a row, because if everybody is in range then we have a chance of 1 in 5 to the power of 3, so 1 in 125 of that happening, which is just very, very unlikely. But it did happen and I did die, and maybe I could have done something about it. Or certainly I could have done something about it with a defensive and time dilation and some sort of an instant heal or rescue. But yeah, I was just kind of confused at that point. Anyway, we kill him in sort of a single target encounter, highly inefficient of course, but what can you do? And yeah, so in terms of the Bloodlust, we did use it on the first pull. Personally, I'm not necessarily a friend of using it on the first pull. I'd rather use it on a pull in the second room, which is much more challenging, and delaying the Bloodlust to this point does not cause you to have less or fewer Bloodlusts over the entire dungeon. Now, in this room, one of the main challenges are the Void Riders, which cast Localized Storm. You see it's going on right now. And they follow a certain pattern for casting this storm. So first they do this AoE ground effect. And now what you want to do is put up echoes on your teammates and then Verdant Embrace yourself or the tank in order to gain the Lifebind effect before you heal the AoE damage into the Lifebind with a Spirit Bloom. You can see I made sort of a timing mistake here. I applied Lifebind too early and he wasn't actually casting the storm. So you can look at the nameplate for when the storm's coming up and then more appropriately time it. But usually what's happening is that you have about, I would say about like 3 globals, 2 to 3 globals, sometimes a little bit more time before, so after the ground effect comes and before you need to start preparing with the echoes for the localized storm. We'll be able to see that again on the next Void Rider on the other side of the room and sort of look at how this preparation might look like. That being said, I don't claim to have been playing this perfectly. I also use these videos to sort of review for myself where I can improve. And yeah, exactly what the pacing should be on my heals in the dungeon. Now, but apart from the Void Riders, I would say the more impactful challenge in this room are the, I think they're called the Thunderers or something, the guys who cast the Lightning Bolt, because that requires sort of coordinated set of interrupts going out on them. And that can be quite challenging for a random group. But keep in mind, if you're a ranged player or a Preservation Evoker, probably, you can line of sight these spells if they ever target you, especially if you get targeted by 2 of them. Obviously, that sort of requires the tank to have positioned the pack appropriately. So here we can see the ground effect from the Void Rider going out. And here's the localized storm. So I had about 2 globals time before I needed to start preparing the echoes on my team, then cast the Lifebind effect and then use a Spirit Bloom into the active Lifebind effect. So again, here comes the ground effect. Now we have 1 global, 2 globals. Now I should start preparing. Now I have echoes already on my team, so I didn't need to prepare, even though it's a reduced sort of value from the echoes from the temporal anomaly. And then you do the Verdant Embrace, Lifebind, and then you can heal the AoE damage quite easily. But if ever you find yourself in trouble, you can always use Zephyr. I probably should have used Zephyr to begin with, just to make it more safe. And you can also commit your rewind, because the boss is very easy. You're very unlikely to be needing rewind on the boss, and so the 4-minute cooldown doesn't really matter at this point. This pack is probably the most challenging pack, and it requires a coordinated set of interrupts. You can see the Thunderers are casting 3 lightning bolts at a time, and whenever 2 lightning bolts target the same person, it can be very difficult. Luckily, we have a lot of DPS on this pack, and we sort of delete it quite easily. So here comes the first boss fight. It's not really a boss fight, I would say. It's more of a prolonged... I don't know. I don't even know what to say. You just press your buttons and he dies. So, but essentially what's going on is he has 2 phases. This is the second phase where you sort of need to run around. Here it is rather important that your group is grouped up, especially if you're playing a Preservation Evoker, but other healers sort of struggle too if people are in different quadrants of the room, then it's very difficult to heal them. I do spec into Spatial Paradox, which is a massive range extension of my spells, so whenever we do get split up, I can activate my Spatial Paradox and cast a big empowered Spirit Bloom or something, and maybe an Echo Reversion on the target to heal it up, even though the range, yeah, they are out of range. So that's maybe even an advantage of Preservation Evoker over other healers, because you have an absolutely ridiculously large range with the Spatial Paradox buff. And I think it's actually a very good talent, especially if you're pugging, because it happens from time to time. However, I find that the cooldown of the talent is sort of with, I think it's 3 minutes? I think it's 3 minutes, yeah. It's a bit of a ridiculously long cooldown. Now this phase also, you want to keep your some hots rolling. This is the second phase, just run in a circle and then expect the jump back of the boss. And then again, it starts anew. We get the AoE circles around each other. I apply echoes to my team. As soon as the AoE damage hits, I apply Lifeline and then use 1 Spirit Bloom to heal the group up. You can also apply Lifeline before the damage hits and use the Spirit Bloom. Might be even a little bit more efficient. It doesn't really matter. And actually I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, because this boss is really just rinse and repeat, so we don't need to watch the entire length of the fight, I don't think. So, the boss is dead, and we jump down into the next area. Now, if you are an Evoker and you are making the group yourself, but also if you're joining a group, you should make sure that you have a Curse Dispel, and that the person who has the Curse Dispel knows that they should dispel the curse, because we have these curses going out here which do a lot of ticking damage and also spawn void zones under the person who has the curse, and you can dispel it with Cauterizing Flame, but you can do so only once every minute, but the curses go out much more frequently. So that's the first thing you should check out. And then you have the how is it called, Attracting Shadows AoE cast, and like you do with most of your healing setups, you want to have 3 echoes out on your team. You can see I have those 3, and whenever the next Attracting Shadows comes, then you can use the Lifeline Spirit Bloom. I actually made a bit of a mistake here. I didn't do that because I prepared too early, and then I had all those echoes rolling, but the Attracting Shadows was still like 5 seconds away, and so I used the reversion, sort of deleted the echoes with it. So yeah, as an Evoker, it's really important that you know your timings, and it's not necessarily super bad if you ever get the timings wrong. So here we have it. I miss 1 of the Lifelines, but essentially I heal the Attracting Shadows in the Lifeline window, except for the Shaman, who unfortunately got left out. We play this pack at the edge, because this allows us to line of sight the Arcing Void casts. As a general rule of thumb, as a Preservation Evoker, you would always want to keep reversion up on your targets, which I realize right now I don't have, but I reapply it. And a good way of doing that is just casting your temporal anomaly and then applying reversion to one of the targets in your group. And this will apply the reduced effectiveness form of reversion to the other targets. And the advantage of this is, first of all, it heals a bit, but that's not really the point. The advantage is that they get the 10% healing increase, which targets benefiting from your reversion all receive. Now this is probably the most challenging pull in the dungeon. We lusted here, and you always want to commit your defensive cooldowns here. So I immediately Zephyr for the first set of attracting shadows, because we have 2 of them here. And I also stasis. And into the stasis, I put my Spirit Blossom at a maximum charge, my Temporal Anomaly, and then also a maximum charge or near maximum charge Dream Breath. And you can see the next set is coming up in a moment. I have echoes on the entire team. I apply Lifebind, I cast Spirit Bloom, and now I still have my stasis, and I can use it if we continue dropping low, and I do. And yeah, essentially we have very good DPS here. The pack is already dead. But you can, for the next set, you could Lifebind, so Echo, 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 Verdant Embrace, and then probably cast the Emerald Communion first, because it becomes that much stronger with the Lifebind. It doesn't heal a lot if you don't have the Lifebind, and then you have another Spirit Bloom. And if a third set would be going out, or fourth set of the Attracting Shadows, then you could still rewind. Now on this boss fight, yeah, it's not really well prepared. You can see I sort of panic use my my Emerald Communion here, and you can see it doesn't really do a lot if you don't have the Lifebind on your team. It's still a good heal, but its potential could be much higher. So whenever he does the Crush Reality jump, you follow the same pattern. You want to prepare for it by echoing your teammates. And as soon as the AoE damage hits, you Lifebind and heal up with this with the Spirit Bloom. But you can see it's, yeah, I sort of missed my timings. I applied the Lifebind too early, because you have to heal before it happens, of course, due to the chaotic corruption going out. And I also, the Shaman died. I already used my time dilation on him. Maybe I should have committed rewind to save him. I'm not entirely sure what how I would have saved him at this moment. Maybe rescue. Yeah, probably rescue to give him a shield. But yeah, rescue sort of requires you to have a lot of sort of spatial awareness. Anyway, what you want to do is try and keep your teammates topped. So at max HP whenever the Crush Reality AoE hit is going out. And you can see I'm struggling mostly with the Shaman, who is just taking a lot of damage. And now I have applied the Echoes, I wait for the next one, I top up with my Verdant Embrace Lifebind, and now I cast the Spirit Bloom to heal up everybody essentially immediately. Now my reversions have run out, I will reapply reversions to the entire team, and now we juggle around the corruption debuff. Crush Reality is coming up, there it is, Echoes are on the team, Lifebind into Spirit Bloom for the full Lifebind heal, and essentially everybody is topped again. And if you play that correctly, as we have a bit of a scary moment here, I need to get away from the tank and he needs to get away from me, otherwise I get 2 stacks of the debuff. If you play this correctly, it's very easy to deal with, but you can see here again a bit of a mistiming. I only got out 1 echo. So it's really a thing that gets a lot better with more repetitions, more practice, because simply having played the mechanics of the boss more often just sort of frees up the mental resources to be able to do this effectively. Here again I was set up with echoes on my teammate, but I sort of panicked in the last moment and wanted to give the DK and a little bit of a heal so he wouldn't die. He probably wouldn't have, I should have just Verdant Embrace Lifebinded. And now I commit the Communion just to top everybody up before the last Crush Reality thing. So certainly a boss that requires a lot of attention, and a lot of planning, but if done correctly, it's not that difficult. The most difficult thing about the boss is making sure that everybody is at 100% HP when the Crush Reality AoE strike happens, because this is where the people can die. And now here the Feasting Void is also relatively easy to deal with. You just expect it, you put up echoes on all of your teammates, as soon as it hits you apply Lifebind and you cast one Spirit Bloom, and most of the time it clears the Feasting Void from the entire team immediately. But if it doesn't, you can cast a Dream Breath with a Temporal Anomaly afterwards, or you can, for example, use your Life Spark procs. And of course you can also just dispel any target, if it's just one, for example, for whom the debuff is still present. You should make sure that the Feasting Void debuff is dispelled or healed off as quickly as possible, because for the duration that it is on the targets, it will continue to do ticking damage, whereas as soon as it's removed, its damaging effect ends completely. So if you do it correctly, and we will see it, I think, again on the next ones, you can remove the debuff almost immediately, and it essentially doesn't do any significant effective damage. And here again, with the Void Stone, this is also very nasty AoE, which he is going to be pulsing out. I haven't prepared properly. I use Zephyr here, and you can always use your first Zephyr here. You will have it back up for the last pack, which is more challenging than this one. And essentially what you do is you juggle here with your Spirit Bloom. Ideally put Lifebind up for the Spirit Bloom, and your other AoE healing spells. You can use Empowered Dream Breath, you can use Empowered Fire Breath into Life Spark to heal the group up. So you have a very good kit of answers for this AoE damage, because something is essentially always ready. But make sure, if you expect a large AoE hit, that you have cast an Empowered Fire Breath at some point, and ideally you have not consumed the Life Spark procs of it. And then you can just shoot out 4, or I think it's even 5 Chrono Flames at your entire team and essentially heal them up completely. If you have the Isera's buff from your Verdant Embrace, it even heals even more. So here again we have the Feasting Void, Lifebind into Spirit Bloom. I think I released the stasis here, so it doesn't really matter. There was a Spirit Bloom in the stasis as well. I think a slight optimization that I could still make is using the Lifebind not when the Feasting Void comes out, so immediately after. The logic behind doing that is that you don't waste the heal from your Verdant Embrace, but the heal from the Verdant Embrace is not enough to dispel the debuff. So if I do that, I heal and then start casting the Spirit Bloom, but you can also do it before. Time it so that your Spirit Bloom finishes when the debuff hits, and it will be dispelled essentially immediately. So yeah, that might be slightly more optimal, but there's also a small risk when doing it like this, that you will miss time and your Spirit Bloom goes off before the debuff comes, and then you're in some deep doo-doo. Although you can probably still deal with it, you have a lot of other answers. So here we have a double pack of the Consuming Void Stone and the lady who casts the thing. And yeah, essentially here we deal again with the ticking damage. I have a stasis ready, I'm probably going to release it here. Again, it's not perfectly prepared for this. Now I empower my Fire Breath, probably wait for the next tick. Now I release the Life Spark procs. I put Time Dilation on the Druid because I feel that he's struggling the most. And now I have a Spirit Bloom for it. And I always have my Panic Rewind button available. You can see that I don't really use Rewind over the entire key. Have I used it? Have I used it once? Maybe. Not quite sure. But I like to keep it for a rainy day. And try to do my usual rotation around it. The same is not necessarily true for Communion. For Communion, I like to use it sometimes because it also has a mana regenerating effect, and it can be useful to just get the mana back. So I integrated a little bit more into my rotation. But Communion also isn't such a good panic button, because Communion is good when you apply Lifebind to the entire group and then use it. It's not particularly good if you just use it. So here I failed a bit in preparation for the Feasting Void, which is especially problematic because the big Void Stone is also going to be going off in a moment. I apply a Dream Breath before the Void Stone AoE goes out, so we also always have a little bit of additional healing. Bit of a mistake here that I don't activate my stasis for this Spirit Bloom. That would have made things a lot easier. But I also have another Life Spark proc, and it's very powerful to heal the group back up. So we get through it relatively fine. Yeah, and now comes the nightmare. The literal nightmare of Preservation Evokers in this season. I hate this boss with a passion. It's just so annoying. It's not necessarily very difficult, but it's just so annoying to deal with the range restriction of Evoker, because people will be out of range constantly. Yeah, essentially what you want to do is stay in the middle and tell your group, if you're playing at a higher level, tell your group, please stand towards the middle, move to the sides when you have to put out the void zones, or when you have to soak a pillar. But other than that, it's better to play relatively close together. It's good at least that the tank doesn't need any healing. And yeah, then what you want to make sure, what's the real danger here, is that when the null upheaval casts, that the group is topped off, or close to topped off. Now the pillars spawn. I have a bit of trouble finding mine, but I do eventually. You would also want to invite at least one range DPS usually, so you don't have a massive damage loss for soaking the faraway pillars. And now we lust, and we do the damage amp phase here. And then it's rinse and repeat. I sort of run around a bit, try to apply some healing over time effects to my targets, because yeah, I won't be able to heal them super effectively once the big damage comes out, because they won't necessarily be in range. What's a relatively good thing you can do, and I could have done that a little bit better here, is you rescue someone and then immediately dispel them, because it can be difficult for them to know, okay, when do I have to position myself where for the dispel, but basically you take this decision into your own hands if you use a rescue, and immediately dispel them after. You can just place the void zone exactly where you like. Now we have a big problem. We left one of these crystals up because the druid got hit by the void zone on the ground. Actually, we could have still saved it. I wasn't aware of the fact that we have one additional clear compared to the stones that go out. And now I'm in crisis mode. Yeah, I know this is a very big pulsing AoE damage, so I commit everything that I have. I use Rewind because a lot of damage has gone out over the last 5 seconds, so Rewind will heal a lot. I'm preparing now for a Communion, I think, or yeah, there's the Communion with Lifebind on my entire team. I still have Stasis. I keep it for a bad day, and we don't need it because the thing has died. So my group has reacted well. I have reacted well in terms of the immediate switch into big healing mode and the willingness to commit all of my cooldowns. And now we are sort of stabilizing in this boss fight. And yeah, you can see here I'm trying to do with the grip with the rescue dispel. Didn't really work, sort of got dispelled while he was still at the front. So mid-air something, I should have waited for a minute, or for a moment, but yeah, anyway. You really want, especially on melee players, you can just grip them out for a moment, insta-dispel, and then they can run back into the range. And now in the damage amp phase, essentially all you want to do is do damage. You want to empower your fire breath to do damage, because you won't get that much value from the damage over time effect of it, and you really rather would want the upfront damage of an empowered spell. Again, I do the Lifebind thing and then cast the Spirit Bloom after the AoE. It's not as effective as it usually is, because only half of the group will be in your range. You can also see the DK is sort of doing his own thing. I'd prefer it if he was a little bit closer to the middle. There's really no reason for him to be standing so far away and not being able to be healed by me. It's sort of a bit annoying that as an evoker you are so reliant on other players playing with you. And I also don't want to be the guy who expects everybody else to change the way they play because I play a class with certain restrictions. But yeah. I could have moved a bit to the side here, a bit of a lack of awareness on my part. Would have made it easier for the shaman to clear the stone, which we also didn't clear. Not really sure what happened there. Anyway, I want to go back, but maybe that's a bit too much. So yeah, we get the dungeon in time, so that's good. And I think overall it's a rather challenging dungeon to heal, but not excessively so. But I just hate the last boss. It's just so annoying. I really don't like healing Rookery because of the last boss and the range restrictions. Even though it's not super difficult to heal. But it's just, yeah, it's a bit stressful. Before we conclude, I want to briefly look at the logs of the fight. Let's see, where are they? So just from a percentile-based perspective, I think I did rather well. I did a lot of damage. Even though I'm speccing into more mastery now. I was a complete crit haste Andy for the most part, but now I'm more of a, yeah, let's do some mastery thingy. So I have crafted an amulet with haste mastery, and I also got a ring with haste mastery, and now I have like a 10,000-11,000 mastery. So not super high spec'd into mastery, but yeah, it really helps out a lot if you heal like 20% more, and usually your mastery is a complete healing increase. And we can also see from a healing perspective what happened here. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Oh well, I don't know. I don't know what happened here. Let's look at the death. Is there anything avoidable? This the weird lightning bolts at the beginning. This was probably my fault. I should have saved this somehow with the crush reality, because Shaman doesn't have a lot of CDs, as I was very close, to be fair. But still, yeah, he almost got overkilled by 58,000. So anything I would have done for him would have saved him. It doesn't even matter which spell I would have cast. And yeah, then in the end we missed one of the pillars because the druid got hit by the void zone on the ground. Okay guys, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you learned anything or have anything to discuss, debate with me, put it in the comments. Leave a like if you like it, and if you found it insightful for helping you heal your own keys, then please also subscribe. I will be making a lot more of these videos going forward. Yeah, thanks and see ya.